Actually, so we're streaming this, guys, right now. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to our first podcast. This is the Anti-Gravity Detroit podcast, where we talk about businesses and how do we rise up, and a particular focus on black business, the triumphs and the challenges and the universal stories that go along with that. So I'm really excited. I've been around entrepreneurship since I was born. My dad was an architect. When he got older, and I actually helped him run the company. I also had a manufacturing startup that didn't really start up, so I learned a lot from that. And also I ran a program at Wayne State University for the last 8 years where we helped companies start up. We saw a plethora of businesses, from technology to nonprofit to retail. We saw businesses that already existed. There were bakeries that came in. There were individuals that had barbershops. Then we also had people that had biomedical research companies. And we also helped out some of the technology transfer folks at Wayne State as well. So we were all over the place. And so I saw a reoccurring theme. I saw a recurring theme of people. We had about 2,000 people in our program, and about 40% of the individuals in this entrepreneurship program were African American, and 20% of the people at the school were African American. So it was double the amount of the population at Wayne State. And I saw a ton of things that kept repeating. And so these podcasts are gonna talk about the things that I saw and the things that we learned that could help, and get real about, where we're still stuck, which is a big part of this discussion. So that's it from about me. But I'm very, very happy to have Eric Thomas of SAGA Marketing, a very prolific person that speaks his mind and gets to the real of issues. And I don't want to sugarcoat anything. So, and this gentleman is probably one of the most eloquent speakers on the issues. You're blunt, but you still say it well. So I thank you for being here.
Sometimes you got to be honest and ratchet.
Yes.
You got to tell the truth, but you got to tell the truth in a way that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
I'm really just ranting, and other people can hear me. It's really a problem.
Well, tell us a little bit about SAGA Marketing, and what was the story behind that, and what's the mission?
All right, so SAGA is a storytelling agency, right? We fall kind of in the marketing and advertising space. Mm-hmm. We have a goal. It's funny, we just did the businessy thing, right? You go through and you look at your BHAG and your big, hairy, audacious goals, all that kind of stuff that they make you do in business school that nobody really cares about. And it's true. Nobody's reading your business plan for real. People just need to see that so they can see if they're gonna reject you based upon what your name is. But SAGA, our goal is to make the world a smaller place, right? This idea that we are a lot more alike than we are different, mm-hmm. but the things that are different are dope. I think that we have this. There's a universal belief that different is bad. That's why you hear people say terms like colorblind. Being colorblind is so ridiculous to me, mm-hmm. because you are erasing someone's identity to make yourself more comfortable with them. It's like saying, oh, I don't see anything that's unique about you, so I don't judge you. Right. It's like, no, you should see all the things unique about me, and also not judge me. Right. You bum, right? Like, because you whack, I can't be black no more. Like, no, I'm black and I enjoy it. Right? And so we want to tell those stories because it's important that you acknowledge people. When people get to see themselves, mm-hmm. In leadership, in media, in stories, then they know that they're not alone. And when you let people know that they're not alone, you can save somebody from the ledge. Sometimes you're just on the ledge by yourself. Teenagers are a good example of this. Every single teenager is the only person who's ever been broken up with before. Ever. They're the only sad person ever. I know you had a divorce, Mom, but I am the only one who experienced heartbreak like this. I knew him for 4 weeks. And but that's a real thing. Yeah. People feel isolated. And so SAGA, our goal as a marketing agency, which is not really the goal of a marketing agency, our goal is to sell you by any means necessary, right? It's like, marketing actually is funny because it allows you to be like racist and lie as a part of your job. It's the only profession where you are encouraged to put people in boxes.
Yes.
It's the only one where you're encouraged to look at somebody and then make a judgment based upon their outward appearance, right? It's like we're in the judge a book by its cover profession. And then we are encouraged to not lie. We're encouraged to spin, right? PR, marketing, media. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a BS artist. I tell that to my clients all the time.
Right. So how do you not compromise that? How do you?
You just don't fucking do it. I mean, seriously, I think people really overcomplicate that stuff. I've said to clients, absolutely not, more than once.
Right.
Because it's not, when you come to an organization, especially like ours, who has the trust of a community, like, I feel like I'm betraying my family members by hand delivering them to you because I know what they want to hear.
Right.
And so, in most of the marketing has become incredibly generic. Anyways, this emotional storytelling is always like, you remember when your grandmother used to cook you pancakes on Sunday morning and then you used to go to church? It's like, oh my God, I remember that. It's like, do you remember when your mom came and hugged you and you felt really sad but then you were really happy? Yeah, here's some Skittles. What the What? It's because they know what resonates with you.
Right.
And so you have the opportunity to use that to make people feel heard and relevant, but you also have the opportunity to manipulate somebody.
Yeah.
And deliver an audience to someone who really doesn't deserve them.
Right. So do you think that companies are kind of predatory, or are they just, or is it just they're just trying to make money, or is it something in between?
It's a little of both.
Right.
I think people have been able to kind of deceive themselves and believe in they're in the greater good. Everybody's mission statement is so BS right now, right? Like Pepsi's mission statement is just like, like hug all the babies or some shit. Like it's like, what does this pop have to do with this, like, making the world go round shit? Like, what does it have to do with that?
Right. Relevancy is disappearing in marketing big time.
It's crazy.
But if you look at the black market, or not black market, but the buying power, the purchasing power of the black population in the United States, it's what, $1 trillion?
1.1.
Yeah, and it's
the next one is 1.3.
Yeah.
The global GDP is 16.7, something like that.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing. That's money going out the door, and money, with some of that money, it should stay in and be invested or reinvested. So that's a problem in itself.
I hear that stat. It frustrates me when people talk about the black spin, and the reason why is because that our net worth is ridiculously low in comparison.
Right.
Right, like ridiculously low. I think it was it's some shit like the average black person is worth like $1,000, the average white person is worth like $250,000. Like, it's bananas. It's because we don't own things, right? You're just factoring in like white folks' homes, right?
Right.
They have like health, and there's certain things that lead directly to it, right? We don't tend to have life insurance, so when a parent or family member dies, it's not a positive. It sounds terrible when your mom dies, it's positive. It's not normally positive, but you do get some money from that.
Right.
When my mom died, that came out of my pocket. I think I got $4,000, and that was after we had the cremator. Like, we didn't have enough to bury her, and so I let like leave her somewhere and like figure it out.
So my dad was a professional; he was an architect, but he only left a $2,000 policy. And it just was bananas.
It's not even about like income. It's just like culturally, like we're not planning for death.
Yeah.
And so you start over almost every generation.
Yes.
And so you're not able to like take that money. So that's why I'm always surprised when I see like a 24-year-old white kid with like a brand new house and car. I'm like, what the fuck was that? It's like, oh yeah, my grandma died, bro. I got like $100 grand. So I moved to downtown Detroit. Right. I'm like, that sounds fun. I mean, sorry your grandma died, but I would love a condo too. Right? And there's very simple A to B lines about why the wealth isn't distributed. But if we go back to the idea of the black spin, $1 trillion is not actually a lot of money in the grand scheme of a community. What black people do better than almost any other group in the world, I would say, I'm talking about specifically American black people out of the black diaspora, right? That includes Brazil and everybody else. Right. What we do is we create and accelerate culture at a rate that I don't think any other group does in the way we do it, right? That's why like hip hop is the #1 music consumption like in the world. We had, if you think about almost every artistic export in America going back to slavery, it's been us. Jazz, disco,
Right.
R&B,
Right.
hip hop, the clothing styles, but we've never been able to own any of it because to own requires distribution. And we have not had the distribution channels because that requires money.
Master P did that, didn't
He did it, right? Like, and then
he owned his. I think he owned his own label, and I think he distributed himself to a degree, right? So that was a good model. That was a good model. So I'm saying it was a decent model.
What happens? What happens that makes me nervous about that is when people talk about the black dollar, when they talk about the circulation of the black dollar.
Right.
I don't hear other communities often talking about the circulation of the dollar so much as the ingress. What we don't have is we don't have money coming from outside communities into our community.
Right.
Like screw the whole spinning it around in a circle. If I got $1 and you got $1 and he got $25 and we're concerned about this $2 and we never bring money into the community,
Right.
that is one of the biggest challenges that I think we're having. And yes, we should be able to circulate it, but we probably need to go make some too.
So to that point, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs that come from different backgrounds, not just not just entertainment, marketing as well, technology. I know a lot of really capable technology folks that can do amazing things and great programs. They can program IoT. They can do machine learning, and I don't see a lot of them getting big jobs. I'm trying to work on that myself right now with TrainX, with our company that trains people in artificial intelligence. But I know people that have some great services, but I don't see people seeing how great they are, right? So, and a lot of times what I see is that these individuals that are great at whatever skill set they have, be it technology, be it service or whatever, they try to do everything themselves a lot. And what they could use is somebody to help promote them. Or they could use, as Amanda said earlier, like an operator, someone that kind of takes care of the operations of the organization so they can push further. But I don't see it enough. I don't see teams of people pushing something. Yes.
I have a theory that we are talking about entrepreneurship wrong. I think that I feel like I was just talking about this earlier today. I've been ranting about it. I spoke to 100 black men about it yesterday, and it's been like a rant because it's sitting in my soul right now.
Yeah.
We think that people who own businesses are entrepreneurs. I think that is the complete wrong way to look at entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship is a talent. I think it's a talent like playing the saxophone, being an artist, being a singer. I think it's a talent.
Right.
I think the singular talent of an entrepreneur is to create a process that is replicable, that extracts and exchanges value consistently over time.
Right.
That is this core skill set of an entrepreneur. It's not the speaking stuff. It's not the hugging people stuff. Like that's sales, right? It's not the making stuff, right? That is manufacturing. It's sculpting. Like it is that process. Right. And what is happening is that everybody with a talent, somebody says to them, "Bro, you should sell that." And so they're like, I think I'm an entrepreneur now. But here's the problem. Your job as an entrepreneur is process driven. Your job is to keep making the processes so the thing gets more efficient so you can keep selling. What you end up doing is none of the stuff you actually want to.
Right.
Graphic designers, when we go into business, like I'm a graphic designer by trade. When I went into business and I had to stop doing graphics, I didn't stop doing graphics, and so my business suffered. You see all these really talented people whose business suffer because they can't take their hands off the thing.
Right.
Because that's the thing that they do.
Right.
Right?
And it's fear. It's fear, right?
I don't know if it's fear. I think it's so what is a talent really? Right? I think there's another theory, right? I could be terribly wrong. I think talent is simply the propensity to continue to do a thing that allows you to ignore the pain while you're honing that skill. And that's it. I don't believe that anybody is innately born dope at stuff. I think they just do it for a long time because they're compelled. Talent is a compulsion.
Yeah.
And so you're playing the piano and your fingers are bleeding and everybody's like, you need to stop doing it. It's like, but I love the piano. Right. If you played the piano as much as somebody who was compelled to play the piano, you'd be as good as them at the piano. Entrepreneurship is very similar, right? I think entrepreneurship classes should teach entrepreneurship like art classes. If you look at an art student, they have to draw every day. They have to fill a notebook. I think you should have to entrepreneur a little bit every day. I think you just have to just keep doing it. the reason why I say it is because if I've never met an entrepreneur who was like a prolific entrepreneur that didn't start selling stuff when they were like 3 years old. They immediately saw the value equation of an object. They were like, how long you been doing this? Like, bro, I was selling Skittles in the 4th grade. Then I was selling candy and
candy out of the.
Then they were like, I got that money from that, and I bought this thing. And I had this bike. Then my friend left his bike on the corner, so I saw the bike, deconstructed the bike, sold the bike. I'd be like, damn, like, since you was 3. And then by the time they're 25, they're running a business. You're like, man, he's so lucky and talented. They've been selling.
Right.
They've been working the mechanism of sales and being rejected, because that's a muscle. Being rejected and still feeling optimistic is a muscle you grow.
Yes.
It's an entrepreneurial talent. It's part of the process.
Yes. So one of the best salesmen I know that has his own business now. I think they're pulling in about $2 million in revenue. Jason Beal used to work with me. He learned sales from selling knives door to door, and he learned. He's 6'5", black dude, real big. So he learned how to talk to people in a very disarming way.
Yeah, you got to diffuse them.
Yeah, diffuse them and just and came
big black guy show up at my door now. I'm starting to ask some questions.
But he became this lovable guy that just listened, and he learned sales great. I've never seen a person do sales better than him.
But you know what I'm saying? He entrepreneured a little every day. Right. That's why I keep calling it. Like it's really starting to become a thing that I'm starting to really understand. You have to do it, because I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I consider myself an artist that's in business, right? I consider myself an impatient artist, where I am starting things because I see holes. One thing I think that we really get confused is I think we think that visionaries are entrepreneurs. I don't think that's true. I think when you look at some of these folks who have these really, really big businesses, like look at Facebook. I'll use Facebook for what Zuckerberg listens. He's gonna be mad at me, but it's whatever. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is an entrepreneur. I think Mark Zuckerberg has one good ass idea: Facebook. I haven't seen anything else Mark Zuckerberg launch take off. He tried an OS on the phone, not fucking with it. He tried to help some schools in New Jersey, not fucking with it. Every time he touches anything other than Facebook, right, it's not sweet. In fact, Sheryl Sandberg had to take Facebook from him, right? He wasn't making no money with Facebook. It took a bunch of entrepreneurs to come in, look at Facebook, and go, "This is how you make money with this."
But that goes back to what I'm saying. What I've noticed is that just on a small level, when there's one person, there's a single or onepreneur, whatever they call it, solopreneur, whatever. They're either very lucky if they're successful to get going, because what happens is that people come to them that are proficient where they're deficient. If they like the idea, if they bought into Facebook, they said, look, I'm gonna join on because it's an amazing thing, and I'm gonna tweak it this way. Like Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs had Steve Wozniak, who actually built the PC, right? And then also Steve Jobs had Guy Kawasaki help frame the story.
See what I'm saying? Steve Jobs is a visionary. I don't think Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think he was a person
regardless if you call it entrepreneurship or whatever, I'm saying how a person starts a business and makes money. And I'm saying I've seen this a lot, and just growing up. My dad had his own business. He was an architect, but he started in the 40s, and he came in as a junior partner. He's much older than I was. He was born in 1917. And so it was all about partnership then. So it was like 3 or 4 guys, typically, that ran the company. And wherever one was weak, somebody was strong. Like my dad was good at making everyone feel comfortable and doing sales, and also training the people underneath him. So he used to hire people out of Cass Tech, out of their architectural program. I once sat down at a city planning commission meeting. This is years after my dad died, and they were talking about tearing down one of the houses he left me. And as soon as I walked into this hearing, the person saw my name. I'm the second. He said, "Oh, your dad is the first person that hired me." This guy was like 70. This is like 4 years ago. He said he hired all the African Americans out of Cass Tech in the 50s, out of the architectural program. Do A, B, and C, and you're good. Have a nice day. So he was that guy. He was that guy that saw talent and trained people. So anybody had that little bit of desire or whatever to be an architect, he trained folks. So he had a team. He had a squad, right? He had people that were licensed, that were with him, and they were good. But the thing that perplexed me, you talk about the dollar within, you have a dollar, I have a dollar, and this person has $25. He rarely got the $25, right? Most he was around, he was in business from the 40s till the 90s. He always had a partner or two, and he did mostly schools and churches, right? And anything that was like in the black community. He did a couple of municipal buildings, renovations, and he had trained lots of people. He was, in fact, on the city planning commission himself for the city of Detroit, so everybody knew him. And I never, as a kid, I was like, why is he not? I'm looking at my dad. Why is he not making big money, right? Because
I mean,
everybody
racism, right? Your dad
right,
was born in 1917, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So
some of that, like I said, some of that shit is simple and direct. Right. When I look at why aren't we teaming up anymore, right? Like I have a business partner, and people are always shocked.
Right.
Because black guys do not team, right? We just don't do that. Like we just dick measure all the time. Like that's all we're doing. Like we just fight for dick space, like all the time. And it makes it.
That's another topic.
It's counterproductive. But what is happening is that when are we learning how to fall back? That's why I think the conversation about entrepreneurship
step back
is messed up.
Or fall back, like I say, failure and recuperate. What do you mean by?
When I say fall back, I mean everybody thinks that being a visionary is super sexy. So everybody wants to be the dude in front, especially in our community where we haven't been able to have things.
Validation. We didn't have validation. But I saw a big difference between a lot of the white students that were in my program, a lot of black students, is that black students were trying very hard to validate what they were doing. Where I saw a lot of white students who just, hey man, I want to do such. That's not a bad thing, but they just, hey, I want to do such. I'm going to do it.
Who in the world, it's to the last like 4 years, white guys are tripping right now. In the last 4 years is the only time in 4,000 years that people haven't looked at a white man and said, you can do everything you want to be. This idea that like none of the rest of us heard that. I mean, people in America think that people have been getting told that you can be anything you want to be in America. But everybody else comes with caveats. Right. They tell the black kid you can be anything you want to be, like except for the president and like except for like a guy walking dogs in white neighborhoods, and you can't be all these things. Women are told the same thing. You can be anything you want to be except an executive, a leader,
or an engineer.
But like anything other than that, and also you can't really like go outside by yourself and you can't walk down the street at night. But other than that stuff, you can be anything you want to be, right? And so, of course, they don't need the external validation. And I'm not going to say that everybody doesn't need somebody to acknowledge their gifts. Yeah. But I think minorities come into the world, especially in America, believing that there are guardrails. Right. And so we have to that's why you get this overcompensation.
Yep. Oh gosh, that's huge and rampant. And a lot of businesses I've seen throughout my, throughout my life, black-owned business, there's a lot of overcompensation, fear of looking bad, so they try very hard to look a certain way.
Oh man!
As opposed to working on what the true value is.
It's true. That's
because they're scared.
That's why I want to have a conversation about entrepreneurship. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, real entrepreneurs are the ones you meet where it's like, "What you do, bro? I sell buttons." "Oh, how much money you make selling buttons?" "Oh, like $2 billion a year, like selling the shit out of buttons." Right. It's like, whoa, because it doesn't matter the industry, it's all about the process. Right. But what we have told people
is not sexy, but it's a business.
It's the business. People think entrepreneurship is rock star shit. Yeah. Like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Damon John, you showing up with the big. It's like, bro, chill.
I think that's kind of somewhat of a recent phenomenon because of the tech boom, right?
Maybe the Rockefellers were rock stars. You look at these folks.
Yeah.
We look at people with great wealth as royalties since we've had royalty.
True.
Right, and so it's
I think people always look for royalty, though.
We've always looked for it.
I mean, in human nature.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We always need someone to follow. Yeah. And what you discover one day, like as a kid, you believe adults have it together till you become an adult. You feel like, oh my God, with my parents as incompetent as I was, they could have killed me. Yeah. I think entrepreneurship is a lot like that too. You see these people and they're deities, and you talk to them, and you're like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot with a $10 million budget. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And like then one day
in corporate America too.
In corporate America, one day you become the idiot with a $10 million budget.
Yes, it was very common. It's very common.
I
I worked for an automotive company. I won't mention which one.
One of
them. One of them. And they were good at producing some cars, and then like the other half they just mess up on. I mean, it's because whoever had the loudest voice said, look, they had their way. Manufacturing used to beat out design. Design used to beat out manufacturing. So a car would look good, but it would not function right, or it would function greatly and be easy to manufacture, but it looked like a shoe.
But
right? Or a dustbuster.
But the reason why I talk about entrepreneurship and business is because what is process if not to exist in that context? With all of these people doing all of these different things, the process created by the entrepreneurial mind allows it to exist. Right. So you can have the best, most beautiful chair, like you're just like working on it for like 38 years, and you're like, this is the chair, right? Whereas somebody can produce 20 million shitty chairs.
Right.
And you're like, I think I should make more money than them. It's like they've delivered more value than you. The process that they've created has allowed them. And so who's teaching to the black community? Who's teaching the story of process in the black community?
Right. Well, I mean, and I think as an entrepreneur or a business owner, so let's go there. I think that like when an example of doing a specialty item versus a low, an economic item, you got to be real. You can't overcompensate. So if it's a specialty item, you've got to figure out who wants that, right? And some people hit it the nail right on the head with that, and that's a harder thing to achieve. But then when it comes to high volume things in the black community, it's hard to get the capital to
scale.
Yeah, to scale it up. I want to kind of switch up just a bit. So the one thing, and this kind of dances, we're kind of getting to this. What I saw just from hearing the stories and seeing these older men and women that used to go to a meeting of the National Technical Association. Now, that was an organization that was a black organization where architects, plumbers, mechanical engineers, electricians, electrical engineers, like anybody professional that had something to do technically would come together. And what they did prior to the Civil Rights Act is they helped each other get jobs. Mm-hmm. They helped each other, so they helped, somebody worked in the city, they said, look, these are the bids going out, this is what you need to do so you can, be competitive and get the bid. This church needs this school needs that, right? They helped each other out. And they needed to, because if they didn't, they would not have work, right? So, but when the Civil Rights Act hit, then you saw the demand, or just the number that the government said, hey, if you're going to contract with us, you need to have at least 15% minority involved in your company or hired by your company. And so what happened was there was somewhat of a flood of black folks and other minorities that went to corporations. And what ultimately happened was that they said, forget the struggle, forget trying to run my own business. I'm out of here. I'm talented, and I'm better than you. Right? You saw that a lot. You saw that crab in the barrel. Like, okay, I must be the special one, because I've got this job over here at this company. And so, in my opinion, that's a term I use is white validation. So they got the validation from the mainstream company, and therefore they feel great, and they leave the companies they were with. They've left the struggle, and that's been a goal of so many people that I've known. Right? They'll come to NSBE conferences. They'll come to programs that try to help black folks get ahead. But as soon as they get an opportunity, a lot of times people they go to their head and they say, "Bump it, I'm gone. I don't need you. I'm the special one." And so, I sat down the other day with a former vice president of a communications company. All right, and he told me his pathway to success. He said that he had somebody, mentor him, help him out, and he said he said he had help, but he also talked about just how great he was. And I said, that's awesome, but what about your classmates or people that you knew? And he's like, oh, they just couldn't cut it. And it kind of hurt me, because I was thinking that can't be true. It can't be everybody, right? So that's the thing, is that people get a little bit of success, and we've had such a hard time feeling our place, especially in this country, as whole humans and as valued members of society, that when you get a bone, you cut everybody else out, or you just once again, you think you're special, and you think those around you are bad. We still that's from a long time ago. That's been built up for the last couple hundred years.
So I mean, there's two points that need to be addressed.
Right.
The first point. See if I can say this in a way that's not ranty. Okay. So, the idea about being special.
Right.
The idea that everyone failed. It's American exceptionalism is what it is. It's the idea that you deserve to be successful if you are successful, and you deserve to fail if you did fail. It's the idea that everything is on you. And so I
think it's a fallacy.
It absolutely is.
Yeah,
it's nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't teach you how to read,
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
And so this idea that you're successful, your success is all due to you, and it feels good to be successful.
Right.
But when you fail, it once again feels like it's all your fault. And so people, they internalize the failure. But what's even worse than internalizing failure, people internalize lack of access as failure. See, they interpret that as their fault, and other people judge other people as it is their fault. They say, look at all these people. Mm-hmm. They are all trash. Because in America, if you work hard, you will succeed. I have this thing I say a lot. I don't know where I got it from. Whoever I stole it from, thank you. But right, if one fish dies, right, then check the fish. If all the fish die, check the river, right? If every single person in the community is failing, it can't be up to the individuals.
Right.
It's got to be the environment.
Right. Right.
Right. And so this idea, and then what we do is it's the most insidious thing that we've done as a country, as a world.
Yeah.
What we do is we find an exceptional person, because we said first of all, we've made the fallacy that everyone is equal.
Right.
Everyone has equal skills, equal talents, equal ability. That is fundamentally not true. Some people are better at certain things. Those skill sets, like entrepreneurship, like playing the piano, certain things lend themselves to different types of monetary outcomes.
Right.
Right. And so, yes, if you have the talent, the propensity, the compulsion towards entrepreneurship, towards business, towards sales, towards engineering, towards that kind of stuff, then yeah, you might do well. But if you have a propensity towards pottery, or towards hugging people, or towards being compassionate, or towards being a social servant, right, it may not yield the same results. And so therefore, you are judged because you are not in an environment that rewards that type of skill set. Right. And so the people who are so lucky, right, I am lucky. My skill sets are in communication. Right. It allowed me to climb up out the hood because I was able to convince people to give me a chance. My skill set lends itself to escape, towards money, towards success. And so to look at me, what they do is they take somebody like me and they use me as a weapon against my own people.
Right.
They say, Eric made it.
He's the one. Yeah.
Why don't you work as hard as Eric? First of all, I have been lazy my whole life. Things came to me easy. I was able to comprehend in school well. I was many years ahead in my reading. Right. Not because I worked harder than everybody else. I was fortunate to come from a genetic line where comprehension, reading, skills, speaking, I got all that honest. My granddad was brilliant. He was valedictorian even in Alabama, right? Like when he didn't have any options, right? My mom is a voracious reader. My dad's a voracious reader. I don't even read. I joke all the time, I don't even read. I just sound like I do. Right? It is because there was communication in my household that came with this type of thing. I modeled my accent after Scar from The Lion King. I didn't learn this because I'm some smart kid. I like Disney and Discovery Channel.
That's a beautiful point. Scar from The Lion King. The accent, I love that.
But it's important, and you can almost see Scar in me after I say it. Like you can see it in my hairstyle, and my wardrobe, and the way I twirl my hands, like Zazu is near, right? It is, but it is important to remember that is luck.
Yeah.
Not you are better than others.
Right.
And so we have and then the next point, to your first point, was I've heard people say that desegregation is the worst thing ever to happen to black people. In many ways, they're not incorrect.
Right.
But there's a reason. The desire to be accepted by the greater whole has been a part of us since before segregation.
Yeah.
We had to create infrastructures to support each other. But white validation, and it's not just black people. Everybody. Oh my God, they're like Asian white supremacists. I always joke that like immigrants like pick a side. They become black or white, right? Until they get home and then they become Indian again, right? But like when they're in the world, they're black or white. It's like, yo, I love rap music. It's like, do you like rap music? Shakar? Like, is that your shit? You know, it's like, oh, yo, Tupac is my jam. Then they go to work and it's like, bro, I love Coldplay. Do you like Coldplay? It's like, because you need white validation.
Right.
You need it. When I hear conversations about company culture, it irks me to my core.
Right.
I think the conversation about company culture is so crazy because it is really used to crush people's identity and is not malleable for differences. And so you have all these tech bros go, I don't know, man, company culture is dope here. We get to sit on a beanbag and slap girls on the ass. Like, seems like it's healthy for everyone. It's like, oh.
People like to feel on top, right? And that is a human nature thing. I think that people, I think in every environment, it's always middle school politics. There are kids that want to be popular and they convince others that they are, and it's like, 20% of the class or something like that. And then there's labels for everybody else. And I think that the fallacy that you were saying that, people are saying you can do anything but this, right? In reality is that people that typically are on top or want to feel like they are on top, hold on to things such as like white privilege, right? They want to keep that structure in place. It's never truly. I mean, this is, in some regards, it's the greatest country in the world, and that the laws, hand down, are great, right? There's a lot of opportunity here. The middle class is huge. You cannot deny that. It's amazing in that regards. But it's also built on that same structure where there were those below, right? There was slavery, there's genocide, there's things that we do in other countries that we really don't know about. The clothes that we get, 5-year-old, kids in Indonesia are sewing them and that kind of stuff, whatever. So equality is a fallacy. It's not truly there, but it's something that we should strive for.
You know what the secret to privilege is?
Yeah, go ahead.
The secret to privilege is plausible deniability.
Right.
It's why I like conversations around privilege, because it allows you to benefit from stuff that you have nothing to do with.
Right. While
going, yeah, bro, I didn't even know you didn't get the job. Whenever I have a conversation with white men, because white men are the hardest. White men are the hardest because most of them, except for poor, if you catch the right poor white guy, then they see the difference. Yeah, right. They'll see the difference. They'll be like, oh, this shit ain't even, right? But usually what happens, so I have to remind people that like systemic racism is not about an action. Right. It's about an inaction, right? It's about, like the analogy I always use is like, if you're on a raft in a river, and the current is taking you in one direction, no matter where in that raft you are, you're benefiting from the current of the river, right? So if you move to the back of the raft, if you try to give up your seat in the raft, you're all still on the white supremacy raft, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you do, right? And it's not about your action. You are just benefiting from the current. Right. If people don't realize that you don't have to be overt. Men are incredibly guilty of this all the time. We encroach into women's space. We do not think about how they might feel. We do not think about the journey from the door to the car at 11 o'clock at night. And it is mental load impacts your ability to perform. And so if I am able to free my mind to think about what I'm doing the next day, that means I have a 15-minute free time to think about from my door to my car, where a woman is losing 15 minutes because she has to make sure that no one is going to brutally assault her every night. Right. And so that happens to black people too. When, as a white man, you go into a meeting, you may think that someone thinks that you might not know what you're doing because you are young. But you're able to quickly diffuse that by sharing common relations.
Right.
I like these things, you like these things, that's cool. As a black person, you don't think that people are not going to not just take you seriously. You're going to think that someone might think you're a threat. Yeah. You're going to think that somebody thinks you're not just not relevant, but also that you are an idiot. Right? Like it's on the other side of
liability or a problem or just...
And you also represent your entire culture while you're in the room.
Right.
You are every black person in the room.
Right.
When you are the black person in the room.
So it's like Black Lives Matters that points out the fact that black men are being demonized and shot, at will, and so that translates in every facet of life. So, like you said, like in industry, if you're at a particular company, if you're at a company, you're assumed a lot of times to not be good. Mm-hmm. And if you are good, that person who's on that raft wants to continue to be on that raft and not have anybody mess up that current. If there's a chopping block, I've seen this many times where, the fingers point at the people of color, a lot quicker than anybody else.
You know why that happens? This is what I think.
I think it's human nature. I think people want to get in front of the line. If you had a ticket to get in front of the line all the time, you'll take it. And
I think people just want to work with people that they understand. I think it's one of those. I think that's once again. I think it's less complicated than conspiratorial.
Yes.
Right. There are conspiracies for sure.
Yeah.
But I think there are some things that's just like, I don't know. I like hockey. He like hockey. He like basketball.
Yep.
I'm rolling with the dude that like hockey. Right. It's stuff that's like that, where it has nothing to do with your skill set. Right. And you know why? Because at an organization like a GM or a Ford or blah blah blah, the systems are going to maintain the ship. You don't need a bunch of A players when the systems work.
Yes.
You need a whole bunch of people that you like just to make sure the doors are open.
Right.
Right. You need somebody to go out there and just hit the red button. So are you gonna pick the guy who hit the red button that like hockey, or are you gonna hit the guy that hit the red button that like basketball? Like, I don't like basketball. I'm picking the hockey guy. Hit the red button.
Right.
Right. What happens though is that when you're from a similar background, you share experiences.
Right.
This is why I heard, what was that article where they're talking about the Me Too movement is making men not want to work with women? Now,
I have not heard of that.
Let's talk about how dumb that is.
Yeah.
What that is saying is that I would rather continue to be a misogynist prick than change my behavior.
Right.
And so I'm picking men because they won't check me. Right? If we really want to solve the problem, men have to start checking men. Because then they'll go, damn, I'm not safe. I might as well go back to what I was doing. Right? It's this idea that you're just more comfortable in a room full of men because when you say the dirty thing, then you won't, and it has nothing to do with morality. It has everything to do with, you just don't want to deal with HR. Right? Like, there's not morality, this is just paper.
Yeah, HR's gotten really good at not knowing how to kind of sweep this stuff on the rug.
Yeah, but see, they were really good at it until social media happened. Social media, I think, is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
Because what you used to be able to do is you used to go to your superior and say, hey, this dude just said a really dirty thing to me. And he goes, that's my friend. He likes hockey. I like hockey. Like that, I'm telling you, it's middle school shit.
Yeah.
It's very, and so I get these arguments with these folks, and everybody wants to come up with these like algorithms. Like, like if you put this many people into a space and then we create all this kind of stuff, it's like, no. Humans just like to play games with the people that like the same games as them.
Right.
And if we realize that that's what's going on, we can understand why company culture is such an insidious way to not hire people.
Right.
Because then you can easily say, you have all of the skills you need to complete this job, but you don't fit here.
Right.
And so when you say, what does it mean to not fit here? That means you don't like, communicate, or do the things that we do here. And so you got one or two options. I have to turn into you, or I have to go be unemployed. And that's when you get this thing where you have like code switching as an art form. Or we have to go into an office and speak all nasally and pretend we don't cuss and pretend that we don't, like, I wonder, and I want to do this like as a study. I wonder how many people don't eat their native food in the office because they're afraid of offending their white colleagues. Like the smell of it, if it's going to make people feel weird. These are the things that you as a white person never have to consider. What you bring to work? Hot dogs, G. Like hot dogs and hamburgers and spaghetti. Like, who don't like spaghetti? We all like spaghetti. And somebody's gonna be like, bro, I really fuck with curry. Right? And so when do we start having conversations about company culture that absorbs the identities of the people you hire instead of suppresses?
This is my theory. I don't think that it's in human nature to rise to that level to enforce those kind of conversations, because people still want to be able to get in front of the line no matter what. So I don't think so. I think when it comes to black businesses, I think that trying to obtain true success versus white validation, those are two different. A lot of times, they're two different things. Of course, you want to get the money from all over, right? From every market, right? You want it to come into your pocket, into your community. But I think it's a losing battle to demand. In policy, you demand equality. When you have a certain scenarios where you can like talk about equality, great. But on the day-to-day grind, when you're trying to establish a business, I think you just got to accept this is how people are. I'm going to go for people that can relate to me, that can see the value in my product, and find them. That's the journey of life. You got to find the individuals out there that will give you a chance and give you the opportunity. Instead of, I'm just saying, a lot of times people spend a lot of time on pushing for equality, but no one's going to give it to them.
You know what I'm saying? I don't really think, and this is the thing I've been trying to work my way through. I don't really think everybody wants to be at the front.
No, I agree.
What I think is that people don't want to be shamed, and I think we shame people for not wanting to be at the front. Follow me here.
Yeah.
I think, and so we judge other people for their.
It's the American thing.
It's the American thing. I think we judge people for their ambition.
Right.
There were people who are like I've been seeing this conversation go around, right? If you work for somebody else, if you're an employee, you're a slave. Let's be clear. No, you're not. Right. You're not gonna get your foot cut off because you work for Quicken Loans. Like slavery and working for somebody is fundamentally different. But this idea that building somebody else's dream is somehow antithetical to you accomplishing your dream. It's not true. What if your dream is to have a wife and a son and a dog and stability?
Right.
You can do that inside the context of someone else's dream. But we say to people, so you don't want more from your life? No, bitch, I'm happy. Right? Where is that? Like, what is this idea of do you want more from your life?
Right.
No, I got it. The people who are satisfied with their life are so much happier than the people who are rich and craving for more at all times with this insidious need to consume. It's like, I'm still not where I need to be. It's like, no, you're exactly where you need to be. You're not where he said you need to be, and that's a fundamentally different thing.
Right.
And it's, so this idea, like, and so you see these people, like you're saying, they're clawing their way to the top of a thing that they don't want. You don't want that responsibility. If you play the saxophone, you do not want to run the saxophone shop. You know why? Because you won't get to play the damn saxophone. Right? You actually don't want that at all.
Right.
But we're shaming people for not wanting to be billionaires. I want to be a billionaire.
You think it's an American culture thing, or you think it's more prominent in the black community?
I think
the shaming.
I think the shaming is everywhere. Yeah, I think the black community, I think immigrant community got worse than the rest of us. You know, I think it's like, oh, you're not an engineer or a doctor, G? I don't know what to tell you, dog. Right? But in the black community, I think there is a fear of being hammered down. Right? Like if you're too bright, you'll be hammered back down. And I think black people got that fear because they have been hammered down. Right. I think if you look at something like 375 being built on top of Black Bottom, right? Black Bottom was everything that white people told us we were supposed to do. They said, you know what? I think black people need to get together, get their money together, get jobs, start businesses, blah, blah, blah. They were like, dope, we're going to put a freeway on that.
That's in every major city. The interstates and the 3-digit interstates run right through all the black communities where they were, or the business district.
Black grandparents they carry trauma from having all of their hard work violently torn away from them.
Yeah.
And so they're telling us, hey, I need you to be careful, because they watched their leaders get shot. Like, they saw Martin Luther King get shot. This idea that we like Martin Luther King is bullshit. They shot him. They didn't remove him. They didn't want me to. They were planning to blackmail him before they just said, fuck it, and shot him. Right? They shot the leader of the Black Panthers. Yeah, they kicked the door in, ran in while he was sleeping, shot him and his family.
So King was killed when he became more vocal against the Vietnam War, made vocal about poor white folks, like he like started to stand.
When he started the people's movement.
Yeah.
When it is, I understand the fear that older black people have because we have the fortune of not living through watching our leaders get murdered.
Right.
Of not watching homes be violently taken by eminent domain after doing all the steps they told us that we were supposed to do to be.
Foreclosure's done a good job of that, though.
And so now we have crack and foreclosures and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's more skillful.
Yeah, it's more institutionalized.
Schools are funded by houses that have been depressed in value, and so there's less property taxes, and then poor people live around them in the circle, so no one's able to fund the schools, which creates lower educational attainment, which creates a vacuum, and so the few black kids that actually do succeed and make it to college are woefully underprepared. They've been told that they were the good ones. They get to school, they find that they can't cut it, they get lower self-esteem, and they drop out and they come back. Right? And so you are losing layers of people. Right. And then we told them, if you lose, it's your fault.
Yes.
It is.
Right. It's not circumstance. It's not circumstance.
It's your fault. Yeah. Failure is on you. Welcome to America.
Right. So that's why. So the fear of failure is huge. And as an entrepreneur, someone trying to start a business, you're gonna fail, right? One way or the other. You may stay afloat, and you may be in the black soon after your first couple of failures. But that's a thing that we also need to accept, is that you learn a lot from your failure. That it's okay to fail as long as you step back and you see what's going on and pivot, and sometimes you do have to shut it down.
We need to teach black people how to fail different though. The conversation of failure is such a conversation of privilege. I couldn't imagine losing $1 million. Like white kids being Silicon Valley, like, I lost $1 million, came up 2 million, lost another 2 million, man, you gotta keep trying.
Steve Jobs is a
bitch, are you crazy? Could you imagine? They're like, I raised $100,000 from friends and family. First of all, what the fuck friends were those? Number two, could you imagine? Dear minorities and poor people, this is specifically a minority and poor people conversation. What if you raised $1,000 from your friends and family and lost it? 1,000. Would you be able to even look them in the eyes anymore? Absolutely not. When you're holding that money, this idea of failure was like, oh man, I lost that 100,000, let me get another 100,000. I'll be watching The Prophet. It's like, yeah, my dad put in $1 million and I lost it, but then he gave me another 150. Yo, I couldn't imagine the weight that it would carry. You can't imagine, because what you're doing is this is not somebody's retirement fund. Yeah. They've invested their dreams in you. They said you are the one. Yeah. And you are bound to fail. Right. But you cannot. So what do you say to people who have to fail but cannot? Right. The conversation around failure is really. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that's profound. It's different. Yeah. When I hear those conversations, I'm like, man, we need to talk about failure. People need to learn how to fail. You need to learn how to fail. I need to learn how to keep this money so I can feed my kids, and so that this ain't the last $10,000 that my family's ever seen. Right. You know what I'm saying? How do we build infrastructure? That is what we need to start doing as a community, creating infrastructure. Yes. Around success.
So like a lot of communities, other cultures have built up like elders and folks that have been running business for a while, and they bring their younger folks in and they train them and they teach them and they give them $1 million, or in some cases they don't have $1 million, they give them $5,000, right? I mean, I don't know how much money it took to start a lot of the liquor stores or buy them, but that wasn't like goo gobs of money. Yeah. It was the infrastructure of the community that just said, look, we're going to do this and you're going to own this and we're going to help you out, and my kids are going to work there late night, whatever, and so our infrastructure is almost there. It's like one step away from actually being there. Mm-hmm. We all know that capital is needed. We all know that skill sets are prominent, and they just need to be tied together. We all know what people want. We understand the markets, right? But we just don't bring it together. And I think it has to do a lot with fear, and I also think it has to do with what I was saying earlier about white validation. Is that there's a fear of failure, and then there's also like somebody needs to validate me. And what I feel is that if somebody has a skill or talent and they're able to make a bit of money off it or get people to have great demand, that's your validation. That's your validation. Of course, you've got to improve your process. Of course, you've got to, understand your market more. You got to figure out how to grow.
But this is why I don't think everybody needs to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, they can't.
If you need to be validated by a superior, go work for somebody.
Right. Exactly.
There is nothing wrong. Like, how everybody gonna start a business? Who gonna buy the shit?
Right.
Like, it's okay.
Right.
It is okay if you're, because everybody's not motivated by money. That's the first part.
Oh yeah.
That's the first part. To be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be motivated by money.
I wish I was more motivated by money.
There is this idea that like that's why I'm really getting annoyed by this social justice conversation around business. Yes, business should absolutely have a moral core, right?
Yes,
you don't need kids in minds and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But your primary responsibility as a business is to make the money. Everything else is superfluous. Everything else is around that. Because what generates it, what sustains it. When I talk to these nonprofits blip out of the world because they're like, yo, I got these grants, I'm hugging all these kids, right? Somebody gave me $100,000 to keep hugging all these kids.
Right.
It's like, dope. And then they run out of it, and they're almost anti-capitalist. So they'll say a thing like, if I have to sell this thing, then it will compromise my values.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but who gonna hug the kids? When your ass blip out of existence, because DT ain't trying to hear the number of kids you hug.
Right.
Right? Like your rent, your mortgage cannot be paid in hugs and validation.
Right.
And it's fine to have that as a core competency, but you have to be, like my business partner is an entrepreneur. He's about that money life. He will call you about the money and he will keep calling you about the money. He will call me. I made a mistake. This is true fact. A year or so ago, we had to lay off our entire staff. We ran out of money.
Right.
And he told me 3 to 4 months, hey Eric, if we don't do these things, if we don't sell this stuff, we will have to shrink, lay people off, we will lose all of these things that we have.
Yeah.
I am an optimist and a social person. I'm like, no man, we out here in these streets, we hugging people, it's dope, everything's fine.
Yeah.
So we didn't make no money. And we had to lay off our staff. Right. And it was the most horrible thing ever. Then we had to move our office. And we had to do all of these things because he was looking at the money. It had nothing to do with all the hood. Right. The core impetus is to generate value. Right. In America, that value is money. Unless it's Bitcoin, but then you can't get access to it because somebody died or whatever. Right? Like all of this other stuff is for shits and giggles. Mm-hmm. It is, and so that is why I think we've overcomplicated things.
What did you guys do differently when your partner, Maurice, right?
Marcus,
my bad. When he
it was an M black name.
So Marcus, what things did you implement that he was speaking of that you do now?
So it's funny because last year
this is about the team.
Yeah.
Right?
So last year we made less money and made more money, right? Like we had less revenue, more profit, and so that was after that whole thing happened. We sat down and we had a real conversation.
Right.
We said, how many people do we need to have on staff? Because my whole thing is I hire people because I think people need jobs.
Yeah, my dad used to do that too.
Exactly. It's a terrible way to hire people. But it's because I believe the community needs infrastructure.
Yes.
Right. And so
that infrastructure.
And so this thing where you're like when your friends are working for you for fun, but everybody's starving to death. That's not how you like. So I tell people all the time, social justice is economic. Right. People need to be able to eat. If they can't eat at bare minimum, then you're hurting everybody involved. Mm-hmm. So we looked at it, then we started looking at how much money can we make per project, and then how can we, slide the margin down so we can have space to pay more people and then be more efficient about our processes. So last year we spent all year doing that. We made a couple of mistakes, but we did better.
Did you contract folks?
We contracted folks.
And you needed them?
We contracted folks when we needed them. Right. We communicated with people more regularly. We worked harder at communicating with clients. We worked harder at communicating with contractors. Right. This year we're focusing almost entirely, once again, entrepreneurship is a talent. So now I am practicing entrepreneurship, right? So now we're focusing on processes. We're focusing on goals. We're focusing on OKRs. We're focusing on how do we do the work that we love in a way that is sustainable, that allows us to grow, and then get back to hiring people.
Right.
How do we get to support the infrastructure while making the money to succeed? if we don't make the money, we can't do shit else.
Right.
Like, that is business at its fundamental. It is not nonprofit work. This is not writing grants.
Right.
This is not asking for money. This is not raising
I want to
money.
make a point that nonprofits typically need to have revenue sources other than grants too.
For sure.
They have to. They have to.
For
And the ones that have been
sure.
around a long time know that.
And that's another thing that always stresses me out, because when I talk to nonprofits, I think at one point we had 80% of our revenue was from nonprofits, something like that. So we work with them a lot, and we have these conversations, and it's this idea that money corrupts. Mm-hmm. Money does not corrupt. Power corrupts, right? Which is different. If the form of value was goats, and you was the cat with all the goats, goats would corrupt. I have the goats, you would be the evil goat guy, and you'd be stealing people's goats, right? It has nothing to do, when they look at capitalism versus socialism, they're like, which one is better? Neither of them. Assholes are bad, right? In Venezuela, right, it's not bad because of socialism. It's bad because of mismanagement and assholes.
Right.
What Venezuela needed was a good person and an entrepreneur to run the system.
Right.
Because they weren't looking at the system like it needed stuff to come into it.
Right.
They were just looking at the system like money and oil, right? It's fine, right? And people were well taken care of until the pendulum swung.
Yeah.
Somebody must have said to him or them what my business partner said to me. Right. And that person said, "We gonna be straight." And all of a sudden the money is worth tears, right? It's not worth anything. And it is the same thing with capitalism. Capitalism unchecked does not work because it creates a hoarder's mentality at the top.
Yeah. Right.
And you can't hoard all of the resources because short-sightedness, outsourcing, is the best idea until everyone does it. Then it's the worst idea in history.
Right.
Because if no one is around to buy the products, the economics is supposed to be cyclical.
Right.
If no one is around to buy the products because everyone laid off everyone to hire everyone, all you've done is you've increased the margin in a short term, but you have not created a revenue source.
Right.
So unless you're about to sell all your cars to China, you cannot outsource all your cars to China.
Shrinking the middle class.
You see,
Right.
it
Henry
is
Ford figured that out, right? He paid his employees so they could buy his cars.
exactly.
Right.
And but it also creates an infrastructure where people can buy cars, but they can also buy cupcakes, they can also buy all these things, and all those people can then build revenue, and then that money comes around, and then somebody else finds another stream.
Yeah.
And so as people find those streams, Dan Gilbert is trying to do that, but unfortunately he all by himself. It's Gilbert in downtown Detroit trying to hire everybody. It's a Gilbert, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the Illages. I joke all the time, I have not met one person who works for the Illages outside of one of the buildings. I don't even know who they hire. Right? It's weird. It's like there's got to be a lot of employees that work for the Illages because they got to work for the district and stuff.
Right.
But you don't see them like spending in the community, right? So you see Quicken doing all this stuff. You see Blue Cross Blue Shield doing some of this stuff.
Right.
But if we don't get 2 or 3 more billionaires, Gilbert's gonna run out of money because he's just funding the ecosystem.
I don't know his numbers, but I mean, I'm looking at his different business models. Some may not, may be at risk at having returns, but
For sure.
they do focus on making the money. I know that.
Cool, Quicken
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Everything else is for fun. If you look at some of, like if you look at Bedrock,
That's property management.
yeah, but for who? Him?
Yeah.
How you gonna be making money from you yourself?
Well,
Like 80% of Bedrock is Quicken Buildings. That's you. 15,000 people downtown are dead good, but you paying yourself. You just taking one money from here and taking money and putting it over here. But Quicken is so big. If
Yeah.
Quicken collapsed,
yeah.
all the rest of that stuff would implode. Who going to see the Cavaliers now?
Right.
That's over. Bedrock is all him.
Right.
Like I don't see like I was joking earlier. I don't know if I can say this on camera, but like I don't think even Gilbert is an entrepreneur that way. I think he's a visionary, right? But I don't see him making a bunch of things that are super successful. I think he got lucky when he found LeBron because everybody else in the Cavs was trash except for the one cat, Kyrie, but he left, and then LeBron left, so now he has like a high school team or something. Right? It's like if you were really thinking about the process, you would have a whole team of people. Golden State, everybody land on the floor and Golden State can shoot a ball and make a basket. That's the system.
Well, I think they've got a bunch of different businesses in the family of companies.
The FOC,
right? And and because of his success and Quicken's success, they're building teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a team that's going to build machine learning models, and they're going to sell that to companies that cannot afford to hire their own data science staff. And so that actually, I mean, like that's one thing I know intimately, or whatever. And if they do it right, they'll be making money.
But that's what I talk about, the idea versus execution.
Right.
People have all kind of good ideas. That don't mean it's gonna be a good business. People like it's like my girl from Theranos, right? She was like, what's Emily something, right? The whole idea was that you could take one drop of blood and run like 150 tests on it. She went from the youngest self-made billionaire ever in life. I think it took one day when they found out the stuff didn't work. It didn't work, right? Forbes downgraded her from a net worth of $1 billion to $0 in one day. Right? Like it all collapsed.
Was she faking the funk, or she just didn't?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But she raised like $100 million.
Right.
And so she raised all this money. She had a great idea, but great ideas are not businesses. They are simply great ideas without the execution. They're not a damn thing.
Right.
They're not the process.
That kind of goes back to what we're talking about. Like, so you got a teammate, right? Mm-hmm. And what I've seen too, again, is a lot of black businesses, they'll have a one person kind of at the head. Mm-hmm. And you need the leader. You need somebody to kind of to push the vision and keep things in line and go after certain ambitions. But you need folks to help you out. You need a Kirk and you need a Spock.
Yeah.
Okay? You need more than that. You need a whole crew.
People need to meet. If I could teach the black community one lesson about business, is that it would be that you don't have to be a rock star to be successful. Like you don't have to be Jay-Z.
No.
Like you just don't have to be. You don't have to be LeBron James, right? Like you could be Robert Smith. Robert Smith is the richest one, and he's the least rock star one.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like he richer than Oprah. Everybody want to be Oprah. Be Robert Smith. Robert Smith is the king of processes. He's the king of like biotech.
Right.
And he worth what? $4 billion.
Right.
$4.4 billion. He's the richest black man in the world, I think. No, in America. He's the richest one in America. Yeah. And so when you look at somebody like that, that is a person who is an entrepreneur.
Right.
Everybody else have these rock star visions. And that's dope. But that does not necessarily mean you're going to be successful.
Right.
It is dangerous to believe that ideas are businesses. It's dangerous to believe that talents are businesses. It's dangerous because what happens is that you throw all of your passion for your thing that you love into the idea it's going to be business, and then when it doesn't work, it cripples you emotionally.
Yes.
You feel like you failed your passion.
Right. So I was fortunate enough to see a lot of black businesses growing up. Architects, electricians,
and I did not.
Construction. Yeah, I was. So this is one thing I realized, and this is part of my vocabulary now, is that I was privileged. I really was privileged. I was 5 years old, hanging out at my dad's firm because it was next door to the house, and I was there until he passed. Right, until he was 22. Until I was 22, and I saw many businesses that didn't just have an idea. They had a skill set, they had a license, they had some charm, they were a good team leader, and I saw them struggle to make their business work. Mm-hmm. Whereas like we're talking about is nowadays the entrepreneur, I think especially since the .com era came into play, everyone's thinking they could be the next rock star.
I hate tech companies so much.
But I think a lot of people. No, I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. But I think a lot of black businesses out there recognize that's not the way to go. To try to be the next Jay-Z or the next Zuckerberg, right? They like one of my clients cleans carpets, right? Mm-hmm. He was a guy that worked for a carpet cleaning business, and he made like $11 an hour, and he was just so good at it. And he understood the business of it that they started giving him more responsibility. And then he gave him like $1 raise. And then he saw like their invoices and he said, "What?" So he like cleaned with 2 other people like 90 banks in a month. Mm. And then he saw the invoice for that. And so what he did is he quit.
Well, for sure.
He quit. So his invoices aren't that large yet, but he's so good at what he does, and he knows the industry so well, right? his revenue is this small compared to the business he's worked for, but he's able to pay himself. He's able to pay the guys that he contracts. But he realized, so it's just a matter, so me, I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to help him out with everything he has, right? With marketing, right? We did a photo shoot yesterday, we're about to put the promotion out there. He is excellent. Anybody asks me, anybody that has carpet, and I said, look, do you like who you have? I feel so good recommending this guy, because I know he'll do a great job.
For me, it seems like, what happens when people start realizing that instead of, like, your only move is not from business that doesn't appreciate you to starting a business on your own, right?
Right.
There is a lateral move to business that appreciates you. Like you could go, because here's the thing, because you clean carpets well does not mean you sell well.
Right. Well, so when
he may. I'm not saying this person, but I'm saying that a lot of
he's learning. He needs to involve sales. So he needs help. He needs a team.
So you need a team.
Yeah.
You need a process-driven entrepreneur. Because what I've noticed about entrepreneurs.
But an additional person. He's good. Saying he's a good face. He knows what he's doing. He's charming, but he doesn't know sales.
You know what I've noticed about like entrepreneurs, like the real ones, the ones that are like I can start 1 million businesses. Mm-hmm. They don't be revolutionary, right?
Like, it is tweak something.
Yeah, they'll take something. They'll be like, this chair could have an extra leg on it, and then they make like $1 billion. You be like, damn, like what was that? You know, like somebody like a Marcus Lemonis, he always cracks me up because he'll show up and he'll just be like, it don't matter what they making, cookies, pants, shirts, lights, blah blah blah. He'll just be like, yeah, bro, we can make way more of these lights. You know, and it's how much is the lights? What's the margin on the lights? What's the marketing strategy? What's the distribution model? Right. Dope. What about these shoes? He can't even hardly dress, right? He just wear Hermes belt and he's like, I'm fresh, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But he understands the process of turning something into revenue and increasing margin based upon scale and leveraging his own income. Another thing, and this is just a personal frustration. I get annoyed with some of the business shows that we have where somebody like Gordon Ramsay or Marcus Lemonis, and I love Gordon Ramsay and Marcus Lemonis, but they'll show up with like $1 billion. And they show the company, and the company is bleeding $100,000 a month, it has no cash flow, it has nothing, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, how come you didn't replace all the light fixtures? We don't have no money, Marcus. We have no money. Gordon Ramsay will show up and be like, how come you didn't get a Michelin 5-star chef? Because this is Kentucky. We don't know no Michelin, but what are you talking about? How come you didn't change your menu? Because I've been running a business for 68 years. I don't know what the hell is outside. I haven't even left here in 6 weeks, right? The mechanism of business seems to be lost on people who are operating, well, a small business seems to be lost on the people who had to grow it.
Right.
Because when you are a person and you're investing the money you're making back into your business and it's just kind of churning, you can't restructure, restaff, rechange, rebuild, buy a new building, get a warehouse, get a new distribution model.
It takes money, it takes time, and it takes...
And experience.
Yes.
And when Marcus Lemonis calls up Verizon, I watched one episode he had, he took this company and he made their first customer was Verizon. Mm-hmm. Because he calls up Verizon and they take the meeting. Yeah, you're Marcus Lemonis. If I called up Verizon right now and was like, hey, yo, get the CEO on the line, I'm trying to fall through and do a sales pitch. That's not really what's going down. The relationship building is a mechanism, right? The process is a mechanism. The $1 billion in revenue and disposable income is a mechanism. Right. This is stuff we need to understand when we're watching things about entrepreneurship that are and are not true. Right.
But you don't, one thing though, to add on to that is that you don't need to know everything to run the business. You need to know, you need to understand what you're good at and what you're weak at. And you need to figure out how to go get that kind of help.
But that's what I say, entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. If you want to run a business, you have to get good as hell at processes. Yeah. It's that simple. Because you can hire the people to do technical skills are technical skills. Mm-hmm. People can learn technical skills all the time. I can teach anybody graphic design. Mm-hmm. It's technical skill. Right. Is the logo big enough? Are the colors contrasted enough? Right? There's all this stuff. You can do all this beautiful stuff all you want to, but if it's going on a billboard, it's going to be big ass words in the picture. Like that's what it's finna be. Right? And so the question becomes, what is the process? What is the mechanism by which I'm able to hire efficiently graphic designers who can do the work I need, have checkpoints in place that when one of my graphic designers have a nervous breakdown, because graphic designers do that, I'm able to replace that graphic designer and keep the same level of consistent quality. That is the skill set of an entrepreneur, not being able to do graphics. I am a graphic designer, and I need to become an entrepreneur. Yeah. That is the trade-off.
Right.
And that is a thing that, like I said, if we're talking about black business, that's what I think we need to learn how to do. And we just don't have it in our communities. Because I think there's a lot of hustlers in our community, but not a lot of people who've grown a business to scale.
Right.
Which is different.
That infrastructure had helped that out. So I'd love to see personally like black ran accelerators and incubators. And that way, I think entrepreneurs or people even just with ideas can be open and honest about their fears and what they're good at, and open and honest about what they're bad at. I mean, that's something we need to be taught too, is how do we open up our mouths and say, I fear such and such.
That's cultural, though. I mean,
yeah, I know. So I know.
That's cultural. I mean, getting black men to say that they're not good at something is so crazy.
Hard.
Like, it don't matter what they're doing. Like, if they're about to jump off a building and pretend to fly, they gonna be like, I got this, bro. Like, you ain't even got no wings, my baby. It's like, no, I'm about to do it though. It's like, all right, well, I'm about to not look.
We're just like, that's a great analogy. I'm about to not look.
I'm about to not look.
And I'm gonna talk about you when you hit the ground.
Yeah. That's a thing.
So yeah, it is a thing, but it's something that so part of the infrastructure is changing the culture. Part of the infrastructure is having those conversations to where you can say, hey, I don't have wings.
Yeah.
I need a zip line. I need an elevator, right? That is what's needed in the infrastructure, because I've seen tons of programs come through here all the time, trying to fund minority businesses, but that infrastructure isn't there to where people can be open and honest about not having what they don't have, and opening up about their fears.
How do you bring in a system that is fundamentally not for a community and tell them this is how they have to succeed? To bring in a system that works in Silicon Valley to Detroit and say, this is what we're doing in Silicon Valley, that is the fastest way to fail.
Yeah, we have to do it differently.
You have to do it fundamentally differently.
Yes.
Right? I just want to see somebody go to China and be like, yo, this is what we doing, bro. We in this boy, we speaking English. This is how we doing business. I don't care about your government. You know what? We're not going to give no control of our business to the government.
Yeah.
China gonna be like, yes you are. Like, we gonna run some of this control.
We'll kick you
Where
out.
you gonna go?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Dubai. Like, I'm about to go to Saudi Arabia. Like, let me tell you what, ain't no hijabs around here, bro. Like, we doing American stuff.
Yeah.
No, you not. So why you get to come in Detroit and be like, let me tell you what we not gonna do. We're not gonna do this thing. We doing it. Everybody needs to learn how to fail. Go raise $10,000 from your grandma, and then we gonna give you $40,000, which is more money than you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
When you see money, like,
They call it stupid money.
if somebody gave me $10,000 when I was 21, I would have thought that was an infinite amount of money.
Right.
I would have thought that would have never been able to run out. And so and then you have a community who doesn't trust the greater system,
Right.
who doesn't trust banking, who doesn't trust white folks
Right.
for real reasons. Like,
Yeah. Legitimate reasons.
Legitimate
But,
reasons.
I mean, there's perception and there's reality, and it's both, right?
It's both.
It's sometimes you're too fearful, and this person right here is willing to help you. You're not seeing it, and a lot of times they're not willing to help you.
It's almost like I know for a fact, Eric Thomas, I can't trust lions, right? Like, I'm sure there is at least one nice lion. But why am I gonna keep questioning all the lions to find a nice lion? My grandma been telling me forever, and my mom before she passed, she said, Eric, this is a true story. My mom said, Eric, don't trust white people. I was like, what you mean? I was super pro white people. I was like, oh no, they seem nice. They got cool hair and stuff. She said, don't trust them. She said, no matter what happens, they're gonna choose them over you. I was like, now, here's the thing. My mom was born in 54, right?
Yeah.
My mom's red flag around white people was life or death.
Right.
My grandma's red flag around white people was life or death. It wasn't theory. My grandma grew up in Alabama. She was born the same year Martin Luther King was, right? Like,
Right.
it was life or death. She was in Alabama during the bus boycotts, right? Like, she watched people die. And so, for her, this wasn't theory. And so I was raised in that. No, I am fortunate that I didn't get to see anybody murdered by white folks, right? But should I
See it on TV now.
be the one?
We see it on,
But then you see,
on social media.
but then you see people get murdered by police and blah blah blah. Am I supposed to be the sacrifice?
Yeah.
And though I have plenty of white friends, and so we have conversations about this stuff, we always joke, who is going to be the one that is sacrificed? I think that's the number one reason why Get Out is like the scariest movie that's come out in years. Because it was the guy who was like, you know what? I'm rocking with these white people. And they were like, psych, no, I got you, B. Like it was like the greatest fear that you integrated into the mainstream society, and the mainstream society finally got you.
Right.
You know, it is terrifying.
Yeah, wanted you for your body.
They wanted you for your body. They wanted to use you like an NBA player or a rapper or a musician. They wanted to use you for your physical talent.
Yep. Yep.
And they didn't want your mind at all.
Yep.
You know, anyways, entrepreneurship, good times.
I think, I don't know what time it is, but
Late as heck. We've been talking for like
What
6
time?
hours.
8:15? Okay, so we did go over, but if anybody have any questions, I'll repeat it. I think we kind of add commotion and stuff, and come up, sit up here. Does anybody have any statements, questions?
I guess the statement is, we talk about entrepreneurship, but is there a timing element in entrepreneurship that you look at? I look at like Enron, Pets.com. Enron was pushing video on demand. Pets.com was selling pet food online. Didn't work then, but it works today. Netflix, and you have Pet Shop who's selling food online, pet food online.
Yeah.
So isn't a lot of times too, even if you have a great integrated process, isn't the timing sometimes wrong? Maybe you're too far ahead, or
Yeah, for sure.
something's not there for you to have it work.
Yep, I mean, there's examples where the timing was right, it's just the marketing was wrong. Like the VHS tape versus the beta. I think the beta could hold more memory, right?
Well, it was a better quality.
Okay, better
It
quality.
was better
Thank you.
quality, but VHS gave you longer time, and what people wanted was longer time because they could take all the football games.
Right, and then there was Blu-ray versus HDTV.
Right.
Right, HDTV lost. I don't know why, because it states what it does, right? And Blu-ray is a cool
Well, I
little,
mean,
so.
the question always comes down to what are people actually buying?
HDTV, yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
people are like, oh, this is better. To who?
Yeah.
There's diminishing returns. The TVs are getting too clear. Like, there's a certain point where, like, my eyes don't see this no better. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
the reds are more vivid red, I guess? Is that what I need? Do I need to give you an extra $1,000 for more vivid reds? Or can I just give you this $200 and live my best life? Right? My conversations I really want to have isn't necessarily about how do you get from A to B and just be automatically successful, right? The reality is that I would love to help people figure out the steps they need to take to scale up, to add more team members, to pivot, to figure out the best market to go after, right? And the reality is people are going to fail. And I think like you're talking about entrepreneurship is sexy and visionary and all that kind of stuff, and that's pushed a lot, and a lot of people are buying into that. That shit is true. Entrepreneurship is so hard.
Right.
It's like real life hard. It's
Right.
not like fake hard.